Northbound delays are from the Stevenson to Jackson and Foster to Hollywood. Eden's 26 minutes, Light Cook to Montrose. Kennedy, now an hour and 5 minutes. O'Hare to downtown, 40 minutes from Montrose, 24 in the Express. Eisenhower, an hour and 12 minutes, 390 to the Burn Circle, 49 minutes from Manheim. Stevenson, an hour and 4 minutes, 355 to the Drive. Ryan, 35 minutes from 95th. I-57, 32 minutes, I-80 to the Merge. Bishop Ford, 40. Northbound Tri-State delays are in pockets, Harlem to 31st, then from the Reagan Tollway to North Avenue. Seen delays on the northbound Veterans Memorial, Fountain, much of the way to Ogden and North Avenue to 290. I'm Jim Talamonte on AM 560, The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Your official Chicagoland weather forecast from the 1 Hour Heating and Air Conditioning Weather Center. Partly sunny, 33. Clear, very cold, and a warning from the National Weather Service overnight. Don't go out without protective clothing. Hypothermia may result. Low 17 in the city, colder in the western suburbs. 22 right now at O'Hare. Next news at 9. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by the Money Hour radio show, Saturday afternoons at 3 on AM 560, The Answer. Brought to you by Pearshell Financial Group.
When you've got questions, he always has an answer. It's Sean Hannity, this afternoon at 2 on AM 560, The Answer.
Dan and Amy, it's the big news yesterday. Adam Schiff announcing that public hearings on impeachment would begin next week, Wednesday. Bill Taylor, acting ambassador to Ukraine, former ambassador to Ukraine Ivanovich, and an undersecretary of state, George Kent, are the three scheduled to testify. But nothing really has changed since the House Republican presser last week, Thursday, on the occasion of that partisan vote on the impeachment inquiry. So just to keep you grounded here, Jim Jordan at the time discussing what went down.
I want y'all to think about something. This morning, I was in an impeachment deposition, but then had to leave that to come to the floor for a vote on the rules for impeachment. That's what that says it all about this entire process, and it is a sad day. It really is for this country. What the Democrats have put our nation through for now almost 4 years.
You do the impeachment and then you work back and set up the rules for it. Yeah, that's not how it works. That's certainly not in the spirit of our justice system. It's not the seriousness with which an impeachment should be tackled. And Jordan is right to point out effectively that an illegitimate process, by definition, cannot produce a legitimate result. He also reminded us the four things that we know to be true to frame our assessment of the arguments being offered.
Four fundamental facts. We have the transcript. There is no conditions in the transcript. There's no quid pro quo in the transcript. Even the day after the call came out, Democratic chairmen were saying, well, there's no quid pro quo there, but we're going to keep on doing what they've been putting our country through. Second, the two individuals on the call both have said, President Trump, President Zelensky have both said there was no pressure, no pushing, nothing. Third, the Ukrainians didn't know aid had been held up at the time of the phone call. And fourth, and most important, what action did they take? What action did President Zelensky take or the Ukrainians take to ever free up the aid that was held up? They did nothing. No statement, no announcement of any type of investment. Those facts have never changed, will never change, but they don't care.
They really don't. And yesterday, additionally, Ambassador Taylor's transcript, the transcript of his testimony behind closed doors, was released. This exchange with Lee Zeldin, Republican from New York, is particularly instructive. Ambassador Taylor, Bill Taylor, and I'm not suggesting he's being dishonest. In point of fact, if you take him at his word, it undermines what the Democrats have been saying and what they've been leaking. Zeldin, would you like to tell us what your position is on it? What was the goal of requesting investigations into the 2016 election and Burisma? Taylor, as I understand it from one of maybe the article in the New York Times about Mr. Giuliani's interest in Burisma, in that article he describes, and I think he quotes Giuliani at some length, that article indicates that Giuliani was interested in getting some information on Vice President Biden, and that would be useful to Mr. Giuliani's client. I think that's what he says. He says he's got one client and he's useful to the client, Zeldin. And then it's your inference that Mr. Giuliani's goal would be the president's goal. Taylor, yes. And your source is the New York Times. Taylor, yes. Zeldin. So do you have any other source that the president's goal in making this request was anything other than the New York Times? Taylor, I have not talked to the president. I have no other information from what the president was thinking. So Taylor's testimony is he divined from the New York Times reporting on Giuliani's conduct what President Trump's motivation was on that call with Zelensky. That is like hearsay, or it's the combination of hearsay and personal intuition that rises to the level of evidence to offer in conclusion of anything other than Bill Taylor was guessing. And yet, again, we have the transcript. So if nobody has anything more than the transcript, why don't we just stick to the four corners of the transcript, and Adam Schiff can offer his interpretations and everybody else can offer theirs, and we can go to the factual record that Jim Jordan just described, and we can handle this straight away. So I, for one, am looking forward to Act 2 of this impeachment play next week. For more on the topic, we're pleased to be joined by Chris Buskirk. He's the editor and publisher of American Greatness, amgreatness.com, contributing opinion writer at the New York Times. Oh, boy. Chris Buskirk, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Boy, now I know that if I write something and they publish it in the New York Times, that God knows who's reading it and what they might intuit out of it, and who knows what could happen. I never realized I had so much power.
There's no question. Yeah. No question. And so what about Bill Taylor, the effort to metamorphosize Gordon Sondland's amended testimony to say he's conceding there was a quid pro quo when that's not at all what he said? What about this?
Well, I mean, this is the equivalent of what we saw with Adam Schiff, 2-3 weeks ago now, where he read into the congressional record a statement that was pure fiction, that had never happened until he was caught on it by people who were listening to it. This is not about, as you well know, this is not about trying to get to the bottom of the facts or finding any type of a crime. This is about just the aesthetic revulsion that Democrats have at the election of Donald Trump and trying to overturn that election through any means necessary. They tried the whole Mueller-Russia hoax thing. That didn't work. It fizzled. And within about 15 minutes, they had seamlessly pivoted over to, oh my gosh, there was something going on in Ukraine. Whereas what we actually know is that the only nefarious activities going on between people in Ukraine and people in the United States were between the people in Ukraine and Democrats, between the Clinton campaign, the Joe Biden son. All these things were actually going on, but they don't want anybody looking into that. But President Trump somehow has a phone call with President Zelensky, and this is enough to warrant an impeachment inquiry. And I think, and the American people, I think, except for the ones who are deeply committed to Trump hatred, I think they are starting to get the joke. And the joke, I think, winds up being on Democrats, because I just have a hard time thinking that this ends well for Democrats, because the longer we talk about Ukraine, the worse it is for Joe Biden. And the worse it is for Joe Biden, the more likely it becomes that Elizabeth Warren is the nominee. And I just don't think that that's a winning proposition for
do you think
Democrats.
They're protecting this whistleblower so fervently because of the fact that he used to work for Joe Biden?
Well, sure. I mean, yeah, in part also because I think that part of the strategy is, and somehow I was talking with a couple of my colleagues a week or two ago. I said, somehow you think, and you just almost know, there was a meeting someplace that said, I know, let's use the whistleblower laws next. Like that whistleblower, it sounds like this person automatically has the moral high ground, and we're going to get to say whistleblower a million times in the press. And so now they want to protect that aura around, oh, this is somebody that has bravely come forward and has, is speaking truth to power, and we've got to protect this guy. So there's part of it is just part of the overall act. But yeah, to your point, because he's intimately tied not only to Joe Biden, but to Brennan, and this is somebody who is a hardcore Democrat operative who has all kinds of awkward links to people in power in the Democratic Party.
Karl Rove writes about his past experience with Adam Schiff in the Wall Street Journal, and he notes that Schiff recently revealed that before he entered politics, he wanted to be a screenwriter. He even penned scripts for a courtroom drama and an action-filled spy thriller. Well, now it seems that he wants to be the star, and I just wonder what your assessment is of Adam Schiff / Tom Clancy, and that this impeachment proceeding is being driven almost entirely by him. He wants to be vindicated from all the things that he said that weren't true about during the Mueller investigation, and he's damn sure to make it true this time because his reputation's on the line.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's really, I mean, that's a great question because, you know, you look at these things, a lot of times you don't find out about this until years later, but, you know, thankfully there's actually good reporting on just the personal motivation of somebody, of Schiff in particular, in this whole thing. And this is somebody who has a lot personally at stake. So there's the ego part of it, which you're referring to. I mean, this is somebody who's a failed screenwriter. We know why he was a failed screenwriter now, because he comes up with these stories that are like ridiculous. If this was a movie, you would watch this movie and go like, who wrote this? This is absurd. Nothing makes sense. There's no like plot. There's no narrative that has a logical sequence, and it's just like too overblown. And yet, this is what we're being all basically held hostage to right now as a nation. So there's that part of it. But the other element is, and there's been really interesting reporting on this, is that number one, Adam Schiff is raking in a ton of money into his campaign and into his PAC because he's become basically a celebrity to the radical left. And the other part is that he personally is being feted all over town in Hollywood, in California, in New York. He goes places, and the quote unquote the resistance, they treat him like a conquering hero. And look, that feeds his ego. He loves it. This is somebody who would never ever be in the spotlight if he hadn't come up with this story. And he probably is really enjoying it.
And he wants to be United States Senator. He wants to replace Di-Fi in California.
For sure. Right. So there are a bunch of different motivations here, and they all go back to his personal parochial interests.
When the report yesterday, after Schiff made his announcement about the public hearings next week, Nunez suggested the first witness Republicans are going to call Adam Schiff. I like that bit of jujitsu myself. What was your assessment of that?
I think it's fantastic. I think that's really good. Now, here's what they are doing here, I think, is a lot of sort of political theater, because in order to call him and for him to have to appear, he has to agree as the chairman of the committee.
Right.
But so what they're doing is they're setting up him not appearing, right? And then they can put forward, well, here's what would want to know from Congressman Schiff. And here are the questions he won't answer. And that, I think, is going to be a pretty poignant moment.
And then they can get a bucket of KFC chicken from Stephen KFC Cohn, and they can have a leg or a wing
right.
and speak to an empty chair. I love it. I love it coming full circle.
No, it's really good. And look, I mean, the Congressman Nunez, I've said this so many times, I'm going to say it again because he deserves it. I mean, this is a guy who truly deserves to be called an American hero, because he is, and he gets the game. And he understands what's going on, and thank God, he's basically like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. This is somebody who has a very good sense of right and wrong. This is somebody who understands the hoax that is being perpetrated on the American people, and he's not going to let it happen if he has anything to say about it. And so, good on him. I mean, this is somebody that we all need to thank for what he's been doing.
But do you think it's a level playing field? I mean, the Democrats have already had a dress rehearsal interviewing these subject matters, behind closed doors.
No, it's not even close to a level playing field. I mean, among other things, they are very well financed. We know this. They've been practicing this, and then they have this big media bubble where they get to magnify everything that they say. But it doesn't have to be level, because I do think that in this case the truth is an adequate defense. And people are starting, as I said, people got it with Mueller, they got it with the Russia hoax, and trying to do this the second time around, it just seems a little flaccid, right? People are saying, hold on a second, wasn't it just Russia, and now it's Ukraine, and now I feel like I've seen this before. It was like the second in the Schiff series of really bad novels, and I didn't like the first one that much, and the second one just has an even worse plot.
He is Chris Buskirk. He's the editor and publisher of American Greatness, amgreatness.com, contributing right at the New York Times. And tonight, by the way, remember, tonight he and our friend of the show, contributor to Am Greatness, Julie Kelly, are doing a 2020 election preview at Gibson's in Oak Brook. So Gibson's in Oak Brook this evening to see Chris Buskirk, Julie Kelly, talk to them, get their insights on the 2020 election cycle. Chris, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy on the AM 560 The Answer mobile app. Just text the word app to 64636 to download the app today.
Hey everyone, Ken here. For 2 years now, you've heard Carrie and I use metaphors to test to see if you think your home or your business could use a revenue shot in the backside. Today, because of our new website, I can be a little bit more direct. Income Store has 2 doors. If you have more time than money, you're going to live under door number 1. You're going to see over 400 digital assets, 5 to 20 minutes apiece, that'll teach you how to manage numbers and lead people, or show you 6 growth tips you've never heard of. All of this so you can start growing your home or your business revenue literally immediately. If you have more money than time, door number 2 is going to be for you. You can view some of our managed services, look for more done-for-you packages. 34% of Americans in 2018 visited one of our managed services. Forbes 3 years in a row quoted, Income Store is an expert at generating home or business revenue. If you'd love to explore how to check out adding revenue to your home or business, just go to incomestore.com. That's incomestore.com.
Admit it, you're not getting enough fruits and veggies in your life, and that's where Balance of Nature comes in. With just 6 capsules, you're getting 10 servings of 31 different fruits and veggies. It's the easiest way to be healthy, really, and to get the fruits and veggies that you need on a daily basis. And right now, if you go to balanceofnature.com, use the discount code Chicago, and you'll get 35% off and free shipping on your first preferred order. This offer may end at any time, so do not wait. Call now, 800-246-8751, and take Dr. Howard's Health Challenge. They'll explain what that is, but now's the time to get healthy right before the holidays. 800-246-8751. Or go to balanceofnature.com, discount code Chicago.
My name is David Hochberg. If you'd like to pay off debt, call Team Hochberg now about a cash-out refinance. During September, Team Hochberg helped listeners convert over $1.3 million of their home's equity into cash